Welcome to a series of videos where we share where our journey started. We are Emmy and Marcus, a Swedish couple from Malmö. We have for the past 2.5 years sailed around the North Atlantic Ocean in our 40-foot sailboat named Linnea. Our YouTube story started on the day we let our lines go, leaving our home marina behind. We have made over 100 videos, taking you along on our travels. But what many don't know is that we actually started filming long before setting off. So this is the story of the beginning of our adventures, how we ended up where we did, and what we wish we would have done differently. So let's take you back to the summers we spent preparing Linnea for the big adventure. In the last episode, you saw us take Linnea up on the hard after spending our first winter as liveaboards. In real time, that was yesterday, and we are already eager to get started with our biggest project, replacing the old antifouling and put a fresh layer of epoxy treatment underneath. And even though we didn't know it then, this will turn out to be the biggest mistake we ever made on the boat.
Good morning! Today we are ready for a second day of scraping off bottom paint, and yeah, looks kind of good from yesterday. We managed to do half the boat, almost, at least. Today we will do the second half. At least we will see how far we will get before the rain gets here.
Scraping off the old paint is actually a lot easier than we had imagined. We use an old tarp to collect the paint from the ground. And even though it's hard work for the shoulders, the progress is fast and we are soon done and ready for sanding.
It's half this side is left, this side is done, and it's starting to look real good now. Yeah, looks good. Looks good.
The green and grey color you see on the hull is the old epoxy treatment. The epoxy on Linnea was put there as she was built in 2004, and it works as a barrier to prevent moisture from penetrating into the hull, damaging the core of the boat. Normally an epoxy treatment lasts 5 to 10 years, and as we plan to keep Linnea in the water also over the winters, we figured it's time to renew it, since this also will limit the possibilities to dry up on land between seasons. We do not have any elevated moisture readings at this point, which means that the old epoxy treatment has still been working. But changing the antifouling system damages the epoxy, and since the CopperCoat we have chosen as our new antifouling will last for at least 10 years, this is a really good time to renew the epoxy as well. And as everything is already stripped down, we are taking the time to do some reinforcements in front of the keel as well. This is a known weak spot of our boat. If they run aground, there is a risk of cracks forming just where the keel starts. We haven't really seen any cracks, but we got the advice to reinforce this area to minimize the risk of damage if we ever run aground in the future. As all the antifouling and all the epoxy was removed, we could see hair-thin cracks, and it felt like a good decision to make the effort to make this area a little stronger for the future. We use epoxy and a medium-heavy glass fiber cloth. The most important part of this project is to get all the glass fiber fully saturated in every layer. It is a bit tricky because it's done upside down, and we don't want everything to fall down by gravity. Each piece we make is a little bit bigger than the previous. That both makes it easier to stick to the hull, but also makes for a smooth graded edge that will blend in better with the old hull. Marcus has sanded this area down to the old fiberglass, which makes for a better bond between the old and the new.
Good morning! Today is painting day, finally!
A nervous day, I think.
Yeah, we have a few family members coming over in 2 hours, and then it's time to put on the barrier coat. It finally looks like the weather is going to hold up, and it's
Cross your fingers.
maybe a bit windy, but I think we can manage.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully. It's a good temperature and there's no rain today. So, yeah. Fingers crossed everything will run smoothly, and then we have the first step.
Yeah,
towards
it's a
the-
milestone
yeah.
for the
Okay.
summer project. I
Maybe
think.
not the first step, but
No, it's a
yeah.
it's a big
It's
milestone.
one of the biggest steps.
Yeah.
So we have a few last minute preparations before everyone arrives. We need to remove and move our supports so that we don't have so many spots that we can't paint. So I think we'll have her standing on 4 supports instead of the normal 8. But we have measured where the weight is, so it should be fine. We also need to mask the water line, and I think that's what's going to take the most time. But we have some time until everyone arrives, so I think it should be okay.
As the new epoxy treatment, we are using the West System barrier coat, and this is where our project is starting to go south. It is one of the more expensive epoxy treatments, but it is also believed to be one of the most efficient. One of the biggest benefits we found was that the entire treatment is done in one day, minimizing the need for long periods of curing times and extended periods of good weather. There is also a very comprehensive manual, which gives you the impression that it teaches you everything you need to know. And it all looked like it turned out really good.
So today we are sanding the hull, and this is one of the steps to prepare the barrier coating so that we can apply CopperCoat and antifouling on top of it. This is the progress this far. We're trying to sand it down so it gets all smooth. And, yeah, I think it's a pretty good job done this far.
The surface was prepared for CopperCoat, and once again we gathered family and friends to help us paint the boat. It had all taken a bit longer than we expected, and it was already September before we were ready to launch Linnea back in the water. By this time we had been able to move back into our apartment, and Linnea was left in the water for winter, while we continued on our list of projects.
We are moving! So strange to actually move around for the first time in 4 months. I think I said 4 months at least a dozen times, but yeah, it feels strange.
Yeah. The whole summer is almost gone.
Yeah, definitely. Today it's 11th of May and we just put Linnea back on the hard to inspect the work we did last summer. The CopperCoat looks really good when it comes to there's no growth on the hull at all, and it's green and copperish, and it looks good in that way. But we have had some blisters, which is not good. We have these blisters pretty much all over, which, yeah, of course is no good. We hope that maybe CopperCoat or West System can give us some answers about what the problem is and how you fix it. But for now, it doesn't feel very good. This was not what we had hoped for our quick tour on the hard. Now I'm going to wipe the hull with one of these. It's a bit slimy, a bit gooey, but that's to be expected. So for not growing anything, the CopperCoat has performed well. It's 8 months since we got back in the water, but these blisters, we will probably have to do something about them.
The blisters are everywhere, both big and small. We are in contact with both CopperCoat, West System, and the company manufacturing their epoxy. We send samples of the blisters to West System, but they come up empty-handed when analyzing the liquid behind. The only thing they find is that the epoxy layer is thinner than they would expect from the 5 layers we have put on. Around the blisters, the epoxy is peeled off like eggshell on a boiled egg. There is even a West System representative on site to look at the work and blisters himself and to take new samples, but they still cannot find any specific cause. It's long weeks back and forth with emails and phone calls half around the planet to determine the cause, but in the end there is no other option than to remove it all and start over. After reaching out to a lot of people, not least our community of sailors on Instagram, we found several more sailors whom had similar experience with the West System barrier coat. One had managed to find a professor in epoxy who had made the conclusion that the problem was that the West System epoxy is solvent-free. That, in combination with the unregulated environment that comes from doing this job outdoors, is the perfect recipe for disaster. According to him, solvent-free epoxies require very strictly controlled environments to guarantee good results. So if this is true, it really is a shame that that very detailed manual that we read didn't say anything about it. It would really have saved us a lot of time and money. But with that in mind, for redoing the epoxy treatment, we choose a solvent-based epoxy instead. And if you recognize the color, yes, this is the same epoxy that we had to start with, the GelShield 200 from International. They were really helpful and helped us out a lot with their best tips and tricks for how we would be successful. Our plan was to sail 12 weeks in Sweden this summer. Instead, 5 of those weeks were spent waiting for a conclusion from West System and hoped they would provide some help in fixing the issue. 2 weeks were spent working full days removing the old epoxy, and 4 weeks were spent painting the new epoxy treatment and new CopperCoat. The very last week, we were back in the water again and managed to get 6 days of sailing before it was time to head back to work again. Today, Linnea is blister-free, and the final result has put up well with the more than 15,000 nautical miles we have sailed. Even though looking back on this footage is painful, today it's just no more than a bitter memory. Unfortunately, we never found out why this happened. The only conclusion we got was that the CopperCoat had bonded well to the epoxy and was not the cause of the problem. There was still no elevated moisture readings in the hull, punctuating the theory that the hull would have been too moist when we put on the treatment. In the end, it was all brushed off as an unknown contamination. The odd thing is that there was another boat in our marina that did the exact same treatment and got the exact same results. We didn't use the same tools, rags, rollers, or anything that could have caused the same contamination. The only thing we used the same was the epoxy itself that we shared between us.